Hello, internet folks. As you may have heard, we have a Venom movie coming out. The first trailer was just dropped last week, and I was not impressed. It didn't show us anything to get excited and not expect Sony to botch this one too. Man, I wish this was being made by Disney instead. Not for Venom to be in the MCU, but because their superhero movies usually don't suck. And even when they do, it's at least an entertaining suck. But I already did a whole rant video on The Amazing Spider-Man, so I won't get into that situation. And I won't be analyzing the trailer bit by bit, because it didn't show us anything we didn't already know. Tom Hardy is Venom, and this is the ultimate version, instead of the alien we're all used to. Carnage is also the confirmed villain, but he hasn't made an appearance yet. And neither did Venom actually. So we still don't know what he'll look like. Will he look more human or more monster? What will he sound like? Will he have the crazy tongue? Will he say we? These are things a trailer should sell us on, not just Tom Hardy screaming. I think there's a massive amount of potential here, but I'm not excited one bit. At least not yet. Who knows, it may be awesome. Probably not cause this is Sony, but I think it'll be a fun thought experiment to imagine my dream Venom movie. Like if I rubbed the genie lamp and was able to wish up a movie, here's how I would make the Venom movie. Because the trailer didn't show us much in terms of story, I guess I can just write this from scratch. The first big step I'd take is putting Spider-Man in here. You can't have an awesome Venom movie without having Spidey. So the whole movie should open with the conflict between Eddie and Peter. Maybe we can bring this back to the Daily Bugle, where they're competing over Jameson's favor. Peter, of course being Spider-Man, gets all the best shots, so Eddie starts getting desperate. He'll start making up stories, or maybe go into Nightcrawler territory, where he contributes to or even causes massive accidents so he can report on them. And then Spider-Man catches him, and maybe he's struggling with the Venom symbiote himself, so when he catches him, things get brutal. Fueled by his rivalry with Eddie, plus the aggression of the black suit, he pummels him. So not only will he get completely wrecked, but Brock gets fired from the Bugle too, and in trouble with the law. See, now that Peter wins this competition by default and becomes Jonah's lead photographer, Eddie now hates both him and Spider-Man individually, of course not knowing they're the same person yet. Later on, rotting away in prison, he gets paired up with serial killer Cletus Cassidy. While serving his time, the recently abandoned symbiote pays him a special visit. Let's just go with the idea that the symbiote knew that Eddie hated Peter and Spidey as much as it did, so it goes to him so they can bond and get revenge. Then you take a page straight from the comics that as Venom breaks out, a piece of the bar slices Cassidy, the Venom symbiote reproduces to create the Carnage symbiote, which then enters Cassidy's bloodstream, causing them to permanently bond. The newly formed Venom try to get their revenge on Spider-Man, where he narrowly escapes with his life, but not before warning Eddie of the emotional destruction the symbiote can cause. So he makes it out barely alive. Then the new villain Carnage begins a killing spree in New York. Cletus had a lot of issues at home. His father killed his mother because she was trying to kill him. Your typical Dr. Phil stuff. So anyways, maybe Carnage kills his dad, giving his identity away. Brock, knowing that Spider-Man is too wounded to do anything about it, goes to take on Cassidy himself, but fails. After this encounter, things can slow down a bit to take a breather. Here, maybe show Eddie's progression as a character. Perhaps he remembers something that Peter told him during their fight or something. Maybe Brock realizes the potential he has, that he can use this monster to help others, instead of just getting his own personal revenge. Venom then takes to the streets and becomes something of a crime fighter in Spider-Man's absence. Hey, maybe give them one or two actual Spider-Man villains to fight, like Hammerhead or the Shocker. Ooh yeah, go Shocker.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
Cause then Venom realizes that loud sounds weaken the symbiote, so he does some good and becomes an anti-hero. Then for the finale, Carnage comes back and wreaks havoc through the streets of New York, killing innocent civilians, in cars of course, so this doesn't get an R rating, I want my movie to actually make money. And he's taking down the SWAT team. Venom, knowing they can't kill him alone, asks our still recovering Spider-Man for help. We wrap up the morals of revenge, hatred, as the two hug it out to go stop the bad guy. They fight Carnage and win, using sound to weaken him and then light him on fire, killing him for good. Venom and Spider-Man officially come to an understanding as they both ask for forgiveness for the awful things they've done to each other. The two thank each other, say their goodbyes, and Venom swings off, never to be heard or seen from again. That is until the epilogue. Maybe another villain or criminal is giving Spidey or the cops a hard time, and the final shot is them looking in awe as the criminal is caught in a black gooey web. Then credits. The audience goes wild, I get my millions, and the next time anyone hears from me will be at the Oscars. Okay, so right off the bat, the first massive change I'd make is the origin. Don't go the ultimate route, where the symbiote is some science experiment that Eddie and Peter's fathers were working on. No, that's dumb. Writers, I know you already filmed it, but stop. Do rewrites and reshoots. The whole parents being important people, and then that ultimately shaping the destiny of their children thing, has been done to death. Even in other Spider-Man movies, that went horribly wrong. Avoid that. Go with the classic amazing comic story. The symbiote is an alien that attaches to Peter, but once he realizes it, he rejects the symbiote, thus causing it to find a new host in Eddie Brock. The two both individually hate Spider-Man, and work together to get revenge like I mentioned before. Not only is this plotline not destined to fail, but will provide an interesting dynamic between Eddie and the symbiote, because here it's an alien with its own thoughts and desires, so it's pretty much its own character. The two characters can work off each other this way, which will also help us understand both of their motivations as they communicate with one another. And also, big note here, make Venom say we instead of I. The fans will go nuts for it, and also serve to show how the two are separate, but working together for a common cause.
We?
So, we got their backstory down. Now, how will the character look? Should he be more humanoid or a full-blown monster? I personally don't have a preference. Venom looks awesome either way, but there is something really clever you can do here to shake things up. How about, at first, have him look more monstery, with larger teeth, a tongue flinging around, and tentacles coming out of everywhere. In the beginning of his arc, when he's still teeming with anger and revenge, have him look like this. Then, as he progresses and becomes more of a hero, his look becomes more and more tame, going from this to this. So, the look isn't just something arbitrary. No, this way it actually ties into the character progression. See, genius. As for Spider-Man, he doesn't really need much to make him work. He's Spider-Man, just toss him in there as a supporting character, and it'll be awesome. But through his struggle with the symbiote in the beginning, he's able to relate to Eddie and be the voice of reason in all this. Besides that, he doesn't need much else. We already know what this character is all about. Probably the biggest aspect I haven't addressed yet, who would be playing these characters? Well, the lead is something I wouldn't change. I think Tom Hardy is a really good actor, and he certainly looks the part, so I'm all for that. As for Cletus Cassidy, that's tough. Carnage is very insane, almost a Joker-like villain. Whoever gets casted needs to have a broad range. You know, maybe Jared Leto. Yeah, I know Suicide Squad sucked, I did a whole video on that, but whatever was wrong with that movie, it wasn't because of his acting skills. Or maybe Christian Bale? He has a great range and has done crazy before. But those are just two really popular actors. Maybe there's someone who isn't as well known, whose career will get launched by this role. Finally, as for Spider-Man, this is another tricky part. I feel like there's no perfectly correct answer on who to cast. Definitely not Tobey, because his incarnation already had a Venom story. Not Garfield, because then you have to deal with that failed attempt at launching a cinematic Spideyverse. Maybe the current actor Tom Holland, But then this movie will be part of the MCU, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense that Carnage is running around when in 5 seconds the Avengers can just take him down themselves. Then the problem with having a new actor in the role is that it would confuse mainstream audiences who don't read up on any of this stuff. They'll be expecting Holland, not a fourth incarnation of Spider-Man within the past 11 years. So, for Spidey, I think it'll be best to just bite the bullet and choose Tom Holland. He's already proven himself more than capable in the role. So, now even though we're dealing with the MCU, yeah, who cares? The Avengers never show up to help in the individual movies anyways. That also opens up new possibilities, like maybe something to do with the other characters is how the symbiote got to Earth anyways. Maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy were storing it or something and it got loose and came to Earth. Actually, scrap that. Random space rock. Yup, that's the way to go. Just have a random space rock fall right next to Peter and you're good. So, yeah, Tom Hardy, Jared Leto, and Tom Holland. I'd watch that. Okay, I know it's fun to speculate and to make up your own ideas and scenarios, but what I want is a far cry from what we're actually getting. It's important to not get so caught up in our own ideas so that we keep an open mind to what we're actually gonna get. We need to judge the movie we get, not the one we want. I just thought this would be a fun thought experiment. But now that I wrote it, let's see if I end up liking the actual movie over my pitch. Let's see if these writers at Sony are worth their pay, or if some random guy on the internet with a dinosaur head can think up a better film. Only time will tell, but I'm already placing my bets on myself. This is Sony after all. Do I have to mention the Emoji Movie? Oh, and one last thing. I know I promised the Mulan vs. Moana video. Don't worry, that's coming next week. I'm just busy this week and had to settle for something a bit shorter. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. See you next week.